Hi, everyone. Welcome to the syllabus for our Judges course. I want to take some time up front to let you know what our course is about, give you a little bit more information just to make sure that this course is right for you and what you're looking for up front. So, the beginning of the syllabus begins like most syllabi at Fuller. However, in this particular syllabus, I've added a section called Significance for Life and Ministry because I think this helps answer the question, why take a course on Judges of all the books in the Bible? And I'll just read through this with you. Because Judges focuses on a particularly chaotic period in Israelite history, the book raises challenging theological questions about God's call of fallible leaders and the place of brutal violence in the biblical text, particularly violence against women. So I think one of the remarkable things about Judges is looking at the individuals that God calls. And God does clearly call these individuals in the text, but sometimes they are horrible, horrible leaders. And part of the problem and ongoing sort of quandary of Judges is how do we reconcile the fact that God has called fallible leaders? And I'm sure you can instantly point to other places in our contemporary culture where leaders have turned out to be fallible. Even sometimes myself, I have my fallible points as well. So, how do I reconcile myself being called with my own fallibility? So, those are some of the, I think, more interesting questions of Judges in terms of contemporary application. And then also, what do we do with all the violence in the biblical text? And of the entire Bible, there are, I would say, right out, no more violent passages than the ones we find in Judges, and particularly violence against women. So, if that's something that you would rather not focus on this quarter, uh, I want to let you know that that is there in the text and just kind of give you a fair warning that that's coming. And then the question of, okay, we recognize it's here. What do we do with it? And continuing reading, yet the stories also highlight Yahweh's faithfulness to a disloyal Israel and demonstrate how ordinary people were transformed by God into deliverers. So we have this contrast between Yahweh's faithfulness and Israel's disloyalty, for one, and then kind of how do ordinary people figure into this whole complex puzzle? Because the people that God chooses, excuse me, yet again, are not probably the people that we would choose to lead Israel. So how do we reconcile those things, if we can? But overall, I would say that the book of Judges is focused on a period of in betweenness, a period of transition, or a period that sometimes sociologists call liminality, if you're familiar with that word. And we have those periods in our own lives as well. And I'm sure the people that you work with in the future, the people that you will encounter in your ministry, or whatever it is that you decide to do during this degree, after this degree, um, you will encounter people that will be in transition, and you will encounter phases in your life where there is transition. So I think looking at the chaos that Judges often presents to us can be helpful sometimes in looking at the chaos of our own lives and the lives of other people. So, moving down, learning outcomes, fuller boilerplate, but I think important. Excuse me there. Course format. So, as you have obviously realized, this is an online course. Um, and we will move on to the books that are required. So I'm requiring you to buy three books. The first one is by Roger Ryan, and it's a commentary on Judges, although it's not a commentary probably like you might expect a commentary to read. So it's sort of his impressions, interpretations, uh, kind of a literary reading of Judges. In fact, I wanted to give you this to show you what a literary reading looks like, and we'll talk more about what that is. So it's an interesting book. Sometimes it can be a little provocative. I had a student one time who said that she often felt like throwing this book against the wall because she disagreed with the author, but that's perfectly fine. Sometimes we have to read things that we don't particularly agree with, and you don't have to agree with them. The next book by Barry Webb is an actual commentary, or a kind of traditional commentary on the Book of Judges. And all English exegesis courses require me to assign you a commentary. And I thought I've looked at lots of commentaries on the books of Judges. Sometimes good ones don't cover the entire book. They cover everything up to Samson and then stop, and I didn't want you to buy two books. So this is kind of the best book out there, in my opinion. That's kind of a reasonable compromise. And then the third book is a book called Judges and Method, and Gail Yee is the editor of that particular volume. And what this book does is it takes certain stories, episodes in the book of Judges, and it applies a different kind of biblical methodology to each book. Now, some of these methodologies are pretty easy to understand, I think, and some of them are pretty complex. So for some, I think it's good that you be exposed to what these methodologies entail. They might be too, I don't know, a little bit esoteric for you. In other words, they just might not seem that applicable to what you want to do with the Bible. But it's good to be exposed to them and understand when you encounter them what they are. So that's important. As we work through that book, you'll learn also about kind of the world of biblical studies, or what biblical scholarship looks like from a big picture point of view. So that's the objective of assigning that book. In all, of course, like any course, there's lots of reading, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. Then there will be a few readings that I'll post directly onto Canvas. So those will be provided for you, so you don't have to buy those books. And then there's a recommended reading by Robert Alter. Robert Alter was a teacher of mine and has written a number of books on the Old Testament, where he provides a new translation of the text and provides a number of literary comments. I think his commentary is very useful. It's very accessible, but I didn't want to assign another book or make you buy another book. But if you're interested, it's not terribly expensive, and there are, I believe, also electronic copies, which might be even less expensive. But that's totally up to you. So what are we going to be doing in this course? Well, first of all, we're going to be doing a lot of reading. I think you already know that. There will each week be some recorded videos, and you'll see how that works as we go along. But each week we'll probably have at least 2 videos, maybe more, but we'll try to keep the video viewing down to the recommended hour per week. I'll try my very best to hold it to that. This week might be an exception, but we'll see. Also, as all online courses, there are weekly written postings that you need to do. So that's steps 3 and 4, and we'll talk about those as we move a little bit further down the syllabus. There is also a midterm written exam. So basically, I will be giving you questions in advance, and you will have a period of time to work on those questions and develop your answer to those questions. So I'll be posting those well ahead of time. And I don't mind if you even collaborate with other students on the midterm. In fact, I think that is an excellent idea. So that's coming up. If you do your reading and you watch the videos and you pay attention, you will not have any problem at all with the midterm. So it's an open book midterm. You're free to go back and refer back to where the question is discussed in your text. And as we go along, I'll try to highlight important things by saying, be sure to look at this because there will probably be a question on the midterm about it. So just be ready for that. Point number 6 is a prompt driven. In other words, you'll get a prompt for a 3,500 word exegesis paper on a text of about 10 to 30 verses. The 10 to 30 verses, again, is a fuller standard. I would not recommend writing a paper on 30 verses. That sounds like an overwhelming task to me, but I suppose if you want to do that, that might work out. And I'll actually talk about the final paper in a separate video, just because I think it's important and we're still early in the course, so I want you to understand what that entails, how there are options to, if that 3,500 word requirement just sounds completely overwhelming to you at the present time, I think there are ways of lessening the burden of that, and I'll go over those with you. So kind of stay tuned and watch the video on the final paper that's coming up. Also, a final section on student video presentation of biblical exegesis research. So first of all, what is this? Near the end of the course, I'll ask you to briefly present whatever it is that you have found out thus far about your paper topic. So this is really to help you solidify your thoughts, because it seems like nothing makes people understand what they're thinking when they have nothing equates to having to explain it to somebody else. So that doesn't mean you have to have, your complete thesis worked out, all of your work done, and that you're sort of presenting your paper. In fact, that is really not the objective here at all. So what I would rather you do is concentrate on your questions that you're asking. Tell us about the text that you're working on. I don't know, what raises your interest, why you picked it. And that is not meant to be a burdensome thing. It's sort of a little check-in to make sure that your paper exegesis is going okay. And if the video part of this is daunting to you, we can work together. I can show you how I prepare my videos. Not that I'm the expert videographer, but I can show you how that works. And if you're still uncomfortable with it, I would be happy to do that via Skype or Zoom or whatever, FaceTime, whatever video conferencing software you're familiar with, and I'll do that one-on-one with you. That's perfectly fine. So we'll kind of move down to the course calendar. So week 1, all I'm asking you to do basically is to practice posting. We'll talk about posting in a little bit. Get your books, start your reading, and kind of get up and running on the course. The readings, I have one of the most common questions I get as an instructor is, by when do I need to have the reading done? So I've tried to make that clear in this course. So by June 25th, which is coming up, you should have read these various things that are listed on the syllabus. Now, I realize that we're in the first week of the course. You may still be ordering books. That may or may not be possible to get all this done in 1 week. And I hear you. I understand. So I've tried to arrange the texts each week in their order of relative importance. In other words, you don't have to follow this order, but I'm trying to emphasize that start with these and sort of work down the list and kind of help you prioritize your reading a bit. If you have a week where things aren't going well, or you're still waiting on materials and so forth, I'm trying to help you sort of organize your reading if you wish to follow that plan. I mean, you can do the readings in whatever order you wish. So first priority, always, 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 is to read the biblical text carefully. And that may require several readings through, especially we'll start off with Judges 1 to 3, which is about one of the most chaotic texts, I think, in the Bible. So it may take a couple of readings to sort of grasp what's going on. Sometimes the stories are really clear cut, sometimes they're a little bit vague. So, but the Bible in a class on the Bible is your number one priority. Next, I typically assign Ryan, who is pretty fun to read, usually, unless you're that student that um, kind of hates what it is that he's saying. But it's a fairly easy read. For the week, beginning in week 2, Myers is a technical reading, but I think also a very important reading and one that you should pay a great deal of attention to for your midterm exam. And then, sort of near the end of week 1s, are the texts on in the commentary and the text on biblical criticism. So I hope that's clear. And then each week follows with the required reading. Scrolling down. How to contact me. Absolutely the best way to contact me is via text message. So if you're somebody who texts, we are going to get along great. So there is my phone number. The only caution I would give you is that um, if we've not corresponded before, or maybe it's even our second time of corresponding via text, sometimes I might not know who you are, or I've maybe forgot to fill in your contact information in my phone. So um, it's helpful, at least in the beginning, to identify yourself. So say, hi, this is so and then go on with your message. So I look at texts all the time, and that's no problem. What I do not prefer, I won't, give you a failing grade in the course if you do this, but I really don't prefer voicemails just because I think they're really inefficient. So you contact me, I'm not available. I contact you, you're not available. Um, and we can schedule times to talk on the phone if that's something that you want to do. I think that would be better. Um, but if it's some sort of emergency or something big has happened, you can feel free to leave me a voicemail. That's perfectly fine. If you have kind of more complicated problems that don't do well or aren't appropriate for text message, email is probably a better solution. And I've given you my email address there. In lieu of something that might happen in a more conventional class via office hours, I'm more than happy and would love to video conference with you via any tool that you're comfortable with that I'm able to run. I love using Zoom, which you may or may not be familiar with. It's um, a video conferencing software. There's also FaceTime, but that's only available to you if you have an iPhone, so that doesn't work for everybody. If there's something that you prefer to use, I am more than happy to try to figure that out. So feel free to contact me if you just like to chat about the class, complain about the class, give me glowing reviews of the class, whatever you'd like to contact me about. I'm more than happy to talk to you and set up a time to do that. So, course interaction. This is, for those of you that have taken an online class before, you know that this is one of the linchpins of an online course where you are typing text into the Canvas website and then other people are responding to that text. So this is one of the ways, not the only way in my opinion, but one of the ways that we create community in this class. So I hope it's something that you'll pay close attention to, something that you're open to doing, something that you will feel some freedom in doing. So I'm hoping for good participation. Basically, there are what I would call 2 rounds of posting. So each week. So we will follow this posting rhythm each week. And the first week, we're just going to kind of practice. So if you don't understand the rhythm or something's not working for you, perfectly fine. We'll have a week, maybe even 2 weeks, don't tell anybody, to sort of get this all figured out. But eventually, we're going to pretty strictly follow this posting sequence. And the reason that it has to be kind of strict is because people have to have time to respond to what it is that you've said. So we do need to kind of follow this schedule. If for some reason this doesn't work for you, please contact me. So we'll see what we can do. So by 11:59 p.m. each Thursday, you should respond to a prompt or prompts that will be provided within the video lecture portion of the course. So basically, somewhere in that video, you will be given a question to answer. And so, whatever that might be, we'll kind of start off with some easy questions and then might work on to some harder ones. So that's part one. You watch the video, you find out what the question is, and you respond to it on Canvas. Second, there will be you will prepare a discussion question, one question based on the readings and or video presentation. So here in this space, I want you to ask a question. So it's not just me asking the questions and putting forth the questions to the class, but you need to prepare a question for the course. And this can be on anything. I've given some guidelines a little bit lower in the syllabus to help you understand the types of questions that I'm looking for and the types of questions I'm not looking for. So in total, we're shooting between the response to my question and the text of your question, at least 350 words. Usually I don't have students who have problems meeting the word minimum. Occasionally there will be a student that consistently falls below the minimum word requirement. If that is an ongoing problem, you and I are probably going to trade some emails about that. But you really do need to work hard to at least meet the minimum requirement. And of course, I hope you will write even more. Then, by Sunday, once you post your question, you will also have access to all of the other students' questions. So by 11:59 each Sunday, beginning with week 2, you must respond to 2 of your classmates' discussions questions. So not only am I looking for you to pose a question, I'm looking for you to help answer other students' questions. And of course, I'm going to chime in as best I can. So these 2 responses together, so I'm hoping for at least 100 words per response. And that these will total 200 words. So that doesn't mean that you're limited to only one response to a student question. Perhaps a student asks a question, you pose a response, somebody else says something, maybe you want to clarify something that you've said. All of those things together count, in my opinion. So I hope you post more than this. Sometimes I know students are under a lot of pressure. They have a lot of other things to do. But I hope this can be an engaging section of the online course for you. So I think this is where a lot of the community is built in the course. So I said postings are graded on a pass-fail basis. So if you do the assignment, you're going to get all the points. If you don't do the assignment, you're not going to get the points. And then at the end, those will be added up. So don't worry too much about particularly if English is your second language, don't worry an awful lot or stress too much about grammar. Obviously, we need to understand what it is that you're saying, but this is not the part of the class where I'm expecting, where I'm going to come in and say, really this should have been a period instead of a semicolon, therefore fail. So I would never ever do something like that. So I want you to have a sense of freedom for your posting. And feel free to say what it is that you need to say. So guidelines, please be respectful. If you disagree with another student, we have had classes where students have actually disagreed, and sometimes those disagreements even become kind of heated. So when that happens, exercise a little caution, a little Christian charity, but also feel free to say what it is that you need to say in love and respect. And don't be put off by somebody else's comments necessarily. And then there's a rubric for the final paper. which you can read through. I'm not going to go through that in detail. So again, look at the video on final papers to see what that's about. Phew, okay, that's what it is that we're doing in this class. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a fantastic experience, and I promise I'll do my utmost to make sure that that happens. Thanks.